How are you doing? Good morning, Alex. The chat seems fairly quick and responsive this morning. That's good to see. Let me just tidy things up around here a little bit, shall we? I was worried I might be a bit, well, I was a bit late this morning because I was worrying about temperature and then realised I hadn't topped up my coffee, so I hope you forgive me for being 2 minutes late. I was just having a quick read through some of the docs and issues for Blitz so that I hopefully don't run into any problems. Turns out Node 15 has just come out. I don't really know what's included, but npm 7 is one of the things we'll probably immediately find people talking about. The main thing though is the issue we ran into with recipes last week is fixed. So someone's fixed this. We ran into this fix, can't install any recipe, which prevented us getting anywhere with Tailwind, prevented us building our basic template, which was the plan, and we diverted into doing some database things. So I suppose we should get started. These sessions are a little off the cuff. I'm not a Blitz expert by any stretch of the imagination, although there aren't that many people who are, I suppose. At this point, it's still fairly new and changing rapidly. I've built a few bits and pieces, a few play apps, but this app I haven't really built before. I'm not 100% sure on how to model the data or anything like that really, so we're just going to kind of dive in and see how we get on. One thing I don't have open is my Figma design, which explains the kind of app we are going to look at building. Let's see. Ah, yes, which reminds me, of course, of the decision about the name. Now, I haven't checked the Twitter on this. Maybe I should quickly go and have a look at that. Let me leave this over here and I'll take a new tab off screen so you can see that. We were talking about names beginning with P, animals beginning with P, panda, panther, because the app we want to build is basically a feature request board. A user will be able to log in. Now, it will support multiple products, but at this point we're just going to make it so that it supports one product. You can deploy the app and users can sign up and log in and make feature requests, otherwise known as complaints about things that the app needs. There's not much to it. It looks a little bit like Dig in this wireframe model. This isn't really a design as much as just a layout. So this is a feature request item, has a title and a description, and this is the upvote button. You click that and you can upvote it. We probably at some point want to make it so you can only upvote it once as well. And we'll probably look into doing that with in the model. So the problem we ran into last week, and let's get our terminal up here and open up the code, was we wanted to start working on our pages. So let's just see what we've got here. And we couldn't use the Blitz recipes like we wanted. So we wanted to be able to install Tailwind so that we could quickly prototype the layout. And hot damn, you love Figma. Yes, mate. Yes, mate. It's cool, isn't it? I use it all the time now just to throw things together quickly, just to toy about with ideas and stuff. It's nice. Oh yes, I realized I'd forgotten to use the keyboard shortcut thing last week. It's a little temperamental, but it's called Keycaster with a missing E, if anyone's interested. It more or less works. You just have to fiddle with the permissions and trust it to not steal all your key presses, I suppose, like that. Oh, we haven't got any music today. Let's just hit play on that. Gone with the chill station today, so hopefully it'll be a little bit less distracting than it was last week. Right, well, I've noticed that in the last couple of sessions I've done a lot of talking and not much coding, so if this is all up and running, let's go and see in our dev browser if it works. All right, so here's our sign up page. I wonder if we've still got the database from last time. We should be able to log in with test@test.com and the password. No, those are invalid. Okay, we'll go and sign up then, shall we? Let's see if we can do that and get a conflict. No, password. Oh, hang on, let me just check I am running the right one. Okay, good. Password, then, because it has to be 10 characters. Oh, and that email is already being used. So we must have an account with the password. Yes, we do. There we go. So we can still log in. That's Blitz managing our session stuff, and that means that as a user we can log in and do things that users can do, which is good. So we know, and I checked this morning just to make sure, that we can now use the Blitz recipes. No, not install recipes, install Tailwind. I hope you can see this. Let me just zoom in one more. So I should mention actually before we go too far that you should run the upgrade to the version of Blitz if you're following along. So make sure that your Blitz CLI is on the latest release, which is version 0.24.3. I've already run that, so I won't run it again to save the time, but just run that, let it execute, and then all of the recipes should work. So we're going to run blitz install Tailwind, and it's going to just install Tailwind for us. Now Tailwind does have a little bit of setup that it needs, particularly around, well, Tailwind itself is a post-CSS plugin, I think, and we'll see what that involves in a second. But going through this is the recipe for Tailwind CSS. Configure Blitz app styling with Tailwind CSS. So we'll hit enter to begin the recipe. It's going to add npm dependencies, which is the Tailwind dependency and a post CSS preset. Now this is probably already installed because we did it last week, but hopefully it should just run again. Nicer than screen key on Linux, yeah. When it works, it's fairly nice. I think I've noticed that the trick with keeping it working is not to use the dock on any other screen than the one which you want it to appear on. So if I use the dock on any of my other screens, then it just goes into the bottom left corner on that screen, which is always fun. So that installed the dependencies, and now it's going to add Tailwind CSS in the post CSS config files. So it's just giving us a little explanation of what it's doing, and it's saying it will create a post css.config.js and a tailwind.config.js file. So we'll just hit enter again. I think they're going to make it so that you can skip all these enters and just let it go for it and see what happens, but it's useful to step through and see what happens. So add Tailwind CSS post. So this is actually going to create those files now. They've been created. So if we pop open our source control, we can see that there's now 2 new files over here. So I'm going to hit enter again, and it's going to add the base Tailwind CSS style. So these are just 2 example .css files that it sets up by default. Don't want to worry too much about those, but it's going to create those, so we'll hit enter again. And now finally it's going to import the default style sheet into our top level _app.tsx file, which is the top entry point into our app, which will mean that all of the CSS rules that are included in that file will be available everywhere in the app. So that it's showing us a diff here of what it's going to do. It's just going to add this line and a blank line under it just to import that index.css file. So we'll hit enter and accept that as well. And then it says file changes are all applied. So hit enter again, and it looks like that was all done successfully. So if we pop over to this source control window again, you can see that, let me see, we've added the contents of this post CSS file, which is just these 3 lines, which sets up the Tailwind CSS call and post CSS preset. I'm not entirely sure what that does, but I've copied this before from the setup docs for Tailwind and not really thought too much about it, so the fact that this is just copied and pasted in is useful as well. We can look into that. I've probably looked into it at some point. I've completely forgotten. So this is the Tailwind config JavaScript file. It's actually not much in here, but this purge line is important. It's basically explaining that the files in the app directory and the pages directory that end with .js, .jsx, .ts or .tsx might contain classes, Tailwind classes, that we don't want to be purged. So this is basically saying keep any classes that you find in these files, don't purge them, because, and I'll explain this in a little while, the way Tailwind works is by basically giving you all the styles in one big kind of generated sheet, and then allowing you to remove all of the ones that you don't use. So if you build a small page and you only use a few of the utility classes, you only get a few bytes of CSS, which is kind of one of the big advantages of utilities, as opposed to something like styled components, where every time you use a rule, almost, it adds a new version of that rule to your code base, so your bundle just kind of grows and grows and grows. Whereas with something like Tailwind, although it does also have some disadvantages, when you reuse one of those utility classes, if you use it 1,000 times, it will still only ever be included in the CSS once, and will only ever be downloaded by the user once in that CSS file throughout the whole site, which is pretty cool. We might talk about that a little bit later. So I was going to have a look at what the Twitter poll was for the product name, so I'm just going to go to the Norfolk Dev. I mean, I don't know if anyone even voted. I know I posted a beautiful peacock GIF, which I highly recommend you look at. Okay, so we had a few votes, and it looks like Panda won, so Panda it is. Panda it is. That's settled. So Product Panda, our feature request application. So let's just finish off looking at what we got here. So we've got our app.tsx file, which most of this came from our initial Blitz project Bootstrap. So all it's just added is this import this.css file. This is a Next feature. Next allows us to just import CSS files into our app and just makes them work. You don't really have to think about it anymore. It also works with Sass. You can use a SCSS file, import that in here, or in any component, in fact. And it also does CSS modules, so you can import them like this, and you can name it even, and then use the class names, just pass them straight to the class names function as an object, as a CSS object. It's kind of cool. I often joke that we use the post CSS with Tailwind because otherwise there isn't enough JavaScript in our CSS. That's a joke for those of you who are hating on the CSS and JavaScript, and probably the Tailwind. And you know, there's legitimate reasons for finding both of those things distasteful. So perhaps we'll talk about some of that later when we get to writing more Tailwind. But there's lots of options for doing CSS. Some people would say we should just use CSS, and they might be right. Right, so we just installed Tailwind basically, so we can now commit that. With one command we can do that, and then we can commit this and say install Tailwind. Although we haven't confirmed it works, we will now go and check that it does work. Okay, that was cool. Push origin main, and I'm actually going to remove these husky tasks because they are kind of annoying. And I wonder if our tests will pass now. Should probably look at what the changes were, what was fixed in that commit to fix the tests, because we needed to run special stuff for those as well. I don't know if we'll get to doing testing today. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so should I remove these disabled hooks? There we go. Let's see how it feels without them for a bit. Okay, close all of that, and I'm just going to add that quickly and commit the disable husky hooks, because that's better, isn't it? It feels very slow. So, oh yeah, git push origin main to get that up, and that'll hopefully run our Cypress CI. I think we set up the Cypress stuff last week, didn't we? Although we're going to run into a problem in our schema with this provider. So we're going to find out if we can use the environment variables to set the provider as well, and whether that works. We'll see. Otherwise, we might have to set up Postgres on GitHub Actions, which there's probably a template for it, but it might take a long time. But hopefully we can just use an environment variable for this and flip it to Postgres, because our model's relatively simple. And perhaps Hamza will show up and we can talk about his comment last week that the database breaks the single responsibility principle, which would be interesting to talk about in terms of relationships to users. I mean, I guess we could do relationship table like we're about to do for our votes, but we'll see. Any reason you don't set your upstream? Just habit, really, and I often work on feature branches where I don't set my upstream either. I've made mistakes in the past, I guess. Maybe I just prefer to be explicit, but no, there isn't a good reason other than I like typing, I guess. That must be it. That must be it. I don't know. We will see. Alright, so we've got our basic model here. Let's just remind ourselves what was going on. We've got the user, we've got the sessions on the user, we've got products, which we're probably just going to make one for now and use that as the product. Also check the Panda. Oh, have you made your way into the Figma somewhere? No? Where's the Panda? Check the Panda. Check the Panda. You might have to explain what you mean. Oh, and I can't hear the music. That's why it feels weird here this morning. There we go. Try not to get it too loud. So we've got the basic product, we've got the basic request, and one of the main things that's missing at the moment is the vote on the request, but we won't worry about that too much. We can go to our products page, hopefully, and let's list our products. So let's check they still work. Here's our product. We made a bunch of those with the default template stuff. That still seems to work just fine. So we'll go into product ID 1, and a product then. You're also explicit about your push commands, yeah. Oh, it does say product Panther. Yes, it does. That's incorrect. That was one of my proposals last week. There we go. Fixed. It says product Panda. Much better. Yeah, I'm always explicit. I don't know why. What do you mean, Alex? Also check the Panda, or do you just mean it was Panther, not Panda? So this is basically the page that we've got here. So it's this request board for product 1. So what we want this to show, instead of the object that just shows the product, is we want to show the requests on the product. So if we look at the product here, we've kind of set it up so that there should be a list of requests that are associated with the product, which means in our, oops, I meant to collapse that. Let's see, let's have a look in the pages. So there's our top level pages, here's our product pages, and here's our product ID page. So this is, we get the product ID from the query parameter, this one up here, in the address bar, in the query string, in the URL. And then we call our get product query and pass it that ID, and that gives us a product, in theory. And then we log out that product here, we just stringify the product and echo it out. So let's comment that out for now so we can't see it. That should disappear if our live reload is working. Is the app running? It is running. Excuse me. So let's put this in the middle so we can see what's going on over here. So I ran into this problem the other day, where on the first render, we probably ran into this last week as well. What's up, Alex? Why are you crying? Don't cry. Oh wait, did you do something that... No. I've got no idea what you're on about. So products 1, that's running, refresh that, we still get it. So yes, this is a problem. I wonder if, so what's happening is, for some reason, I've posted an issue about this, but no one's replied, so I don't know if it's just me that's running into it. I confirmed it happens in a new project as well. Your link above? No, I cannot see your link, Alex. Your links are apparently being censored. Links are censored, yeah. Yep, I think that's likely. So we don't get old spammers trying to sell us cryptocurrency. Alright. So what's happening is this use param is returning not a number, basically. It's trying to pass the product ID as a number. But that doesn't work. So just as a workaround now, I'm just going to pass 1 in if product ID is not a number, and let's see if that works, because not a number is falsy in JavaScript, isn't it? So in theory, that will mean it always just passes 1, and since we don't care about the product for now, I'm just going to go with it, and hopefully they'll fix that in Blitz, or we can fix it. Crypto for all, just DM me. Yeah, exactly. That's how it would go. So we've got an edit button and a delete button. If we go to the edit screen, we still get no form, we just get the stuff echoed out again, but if we go back here, we get nothing. Let's have a look if we have our products on here. So if I wanted to map over the requests on here, could I do it? No, I can't. So that's where we need to go and look at our get product query. I can't remember if we looked at this or whether I was looking at it separately the other day, trying to figure it out. But Prisma works by basically, I think we can include here. Yeah. So let's see if this works. I'm not sure if it's going to work. We might have to pass it in here. But in theory, we should be able to pass include instructions in, which mean we can make sure we get the relationship that we want. So we can say requests true. And in theory, that should mean the product now has request on it, but unfortunately that doesn't seem to work as you'd expect, which is unfortunate. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to copy that and close that properly, and we're going to go back to get product, and instead of passing it in, and instead of expecting it as a type that we pass in, we're going to put it directly in the query here, which is a little bit ugly, but it means that every time we call this get product, we're going to include the requests, and we know we want to all the time. So this will work, and strangely, and I think this is a weird TypeScript issue, I don't know if there's a problem with fixing it or not, but now if we go and try and loop over this, we have the requests list, and we can map over it, and we'll get a request, and we can render out a request, which is pretty good. So now we can say request dot famous last words. Does that work? Let's see. Requests, request, map, request, is a request, request dot everything but request. Oh no, it is the request, yeah, because we're in there now, silly me. I swear, when I'm on live stream, my processing is running like the live stream, like I'm running constant 20% background process like my computer, which makes things just a little bit, makes me a little bit more stupid than I am normally, I'm sure of it. It's like how I can't type when someone's watching me type. Like right now. Classic 9 AM, we're an hour in and we've not done anything. Eric from Menendez, you're tripping balls right now. What are you tripping on? This might be fun, it might be dull. Do you want me to turn the music up? Can I get you a drink? Have you had some water? Tell me how you feel. Alright, so that's failing because the include is undefined, but that was last time, right? Should be there now. Cool, so now we should be getting the product, but do we get anything? We don't seem to be getting anything. What's going on there then? Are we calling it? And we're including the requests. So it's finding something. I guess maybe if we include requests, it only returns it if... Oh no, it is returning it, there just aren't any requests. I'm a fool. Acid, you should try it. Ah, right, yeah, okay. Probably save that for a late night stream one time. Right. I need to turn off notifications on my phone, which I use as a stream deck, which means I can turn myself on and off. Woo. Sorry. Anyway, let's get on. What we need to do is be able to create a request and then assign it to the product. How do we do that? Well, in a similar way to this include thing, we use the connect stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the requests new endpoint, if that exists. Did we make that last week? Where is it? No, we didn't. All right, let's do that first. So we're going to do blitz generate all requests. There we go. So that's created all our pages that we need for requests, which means that now we can go here to the request/new and hit submit, and it's going to fail because our model is different. So we tried to pass in name from that generated page form, which doesn't work because actually it's a title. Yeah. And the data that we've got on that type has some other requirements, so let's go and have a look. So we're actually expecting a product ID, and I wonder if we can just similarly, can we connect it here? Let's try. Oh no, it's in here. No, it's part of the data. Connect. Can I do it here? No, we need to modify the type as well first, I think. Do I have a job in development right now? Yes, I do, but not strictly with this stuff, so forgive me if I appear incompetent. Name versus title elsewhere. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. What is that error saying? Product is missing type title, but required in type request create input. Dun, 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 dun. This one. Expects data. That should be fine. Oh, we changed the... No, we didn't change the schema, did we? Wait a minute. Is this a reload thing? Do TypeScript a second. Is it still going to be a problem or not? Maybe TypeScript server is hanging. Indeed, that is often the problem, unfortunately. There's an issue on the Blitz issue queue for fixing it. I think it's, well, actually on the Prisma queue, I think there's a, no, it is incorrect. Product is missing in type title string, but required in type request creating to input. Request, what are we creating here? Create request mutation, and a request has a title, but it's optional, but the product ID is not optional. So in fact, we don't want that to be optional. So what we want though is to connect it, and in order to do that, I think we need to do it in here. But it's not doing the autocomplete, so it means I don't actually understand what I'm trying to do. which means I should probably go and look at the Prisma docs. And Prisma Connect is too generic. To find anything useful. Oh no, here it is. I want mutation. Da 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 da. Request create input. Maybe I haven't generated my database. Let's see. Because it does seem odd that that's broken. No, it seems fine. Already applied. Prisma clients. Oh, ha. And now it is correct. So it looked like I needed to update the client. How do requests work? Oh no, it is still broken. God damn it. If I change that back to name, is that going to work? No. Now name is incorrect. Oh, hang on a minute then. Let's have a look what this wants. So the way requests work has actually changed recently. Oh, it does. Is it this? Oh, there we go. Sorry, I was being silly. There we go. And the ID is the oh, do we have an ID? Do we have an ID yet? We don't. We need the product ID. Where are we going to get that from? Where are we going to get that from? I'm not sure. Let me think. Well, let's just do one because we've only got one product at the moment, and then we'll add it in the URL at some point in the near future. So requests have changed quite a bit in recent releases. But what this is the Blitz selling point of no API development, basically. So this create request function will always run on the server, has access to the session middleware, so it knows who the user is, and we can identify who the user is, and we'll do that in a second to associate the request that we create with the user. But in our front-end components, which is what this is, we can just import the create request function, and then using this use mutation hook, get a version of that function that's effectively wrapped with an API, and then we can just await it in our front-end component, and it just works. So by creating the function to get our data on the server, and then importing that function and hooking it up basically with one line, we don't have to build any API stuff, we don't have to set up anything really, and this, the query side of this comes with all of the benefits of React Query, including the tree level caching and server-side rendering and all sorts of stuff, which is kind of cool. So this is in fact one of the selling points of Blitz. This is what they mean when they say it makes you productive. You write one line to get your data out on the server, and then you write one line to get it on the client, and then you render it out, pretty much. And then you call it to update the database. You know, it's quite simple. But you know, things can get a little bit more complicated over time. Yeah, I thought it was the other way around, but it turns out it's not. And I always forget that, but that's okay. That means that now when we create a request, the next request we create, in theory, should appear in the database connected to the product. So let's try that and see what happens. So we'll refresh this just to make sure we've got the latest code. Wow, I see I'm working on LampStack right now, and the terminology is a lot different for React apps. Well, the terminology is different, but the concepts often are very similar, I find. In fact, I was just saying last week that a lot of this stuff feels similar to how things felt when I first started on doing PHP and lab stack stuff with MySQL. But yeah, there's a bit more stuff to get your head around. But I'll link them in the video description later. If this is the first stream you've seen, we've done 2 previous weeks where we covered all of the basics around Next.js and Prisma and React Query, and then did an intro to Blitz.js last week. And today we're going to actually, hopefully, in the next 40 minutes, 45 minutes, wait, yeah, 45, no, hour and 15 minutes. Hi, welcome to Basic Arithmetic with Sean. But in the next few minutes, we're going to hopefully build a basic version of this app. So we're going to submit this. That's going to succeed, which is great. The product ID is now 1, which means that we should have a request here. And if we go back to products 1, does that mean we're going to have a product listed? No. Okay, well, we'll go and have a look at that in a minute, but let's go and see if our database is looking good. It's not Cypress, it's in here. We will open in Finder. Yep, start at the bottom, work your way up. Close that, open this. Okay, so this is the Sqlite database, and we created a request, and oh look, there's the product ID. And if we click that, boom, we get taken to the product ID entry. Cool, so that works. The user ID is null though, because we haven't associated with it with a user. So if we go back over to this create request mutation, let's have a look what we've got on this session object. We got a user ID? We do, so we can grab that user ID out of the session object. And then we can do the same thing we did in here, right? Did we get any autocomplete on that? No, okay, so let's spread the data and see if we can. Oh no. Can we add to that then, like this? Let's do it like this, that's what we want. And in here we can say, give me the user, and connect the user by the user's ID, which will match the user's ID in our current session. So that should work. So there's an authorized, we check that it's authorized. This throws an error if the user isn't authorized. So we're pushing in a new entry into the request, and we're going to associate it with the user ID. And that's interesting. And look what we're doing here. In the new file, the new request, on the client side, we can connect it with a product because that's the user's selection, and we don't really care about that being authenticated, or we can trust that, okay, if the user wants to look at product 1, we'll then go for it, as long as they have that ability. And we might do some checks on whether the user has permission to add a product to product 1 in future, but it's like the user is going to choose that, so we don't care about it. However, this user here, we would never want the user to be able to choose their own user ID in order to associate the request they're making with some other user's number. So we do this on the server side, which makes sure that the user ID that we're attaching this request to is only ever the user that's authenticated with their valid session ID here. So you can see these are doing pretty much the same thing, but some of it is trusted on the client, and some of it is certainly not trusted to come from the client, so we do it server side. It's an important distinction to be aware of when you've got effectively these autocomplete things on the client, because you can imagine how if we came down here and said, okay, well actually let's connect, let's get the current user ID, and then we'll connect it like this, but then that would potentially allow someone to see what queries are getting made in our browser over the network and include whatever ID they want in there. And if they know somebody else's user ID, they can simply attach any request they want to any user that they want. We certainly wouldn't want that to come from the client, so we avoid that by doing the user connection on the server. And we could indeed probably modify this to just accept a number as a second argument for the product ID, and do that on the server side as well if we wanted, and that would mean we didn't have to have this big JSON structure on our client side. But it's up to you. It's a choice you can make. Either way, that ID is coming from the client's choice, the user's choice, so we're not worried about it from a security standpoint, like we are the user ID. So I've probably drummed on about that far too long. If we now make another request to that create new request form, let's go and quickly type in requests correctly and type new. That should load that page. We'll hit submit. That will create the new default object. Request 2, and look, product ID and user ID is 1 because I'm logged in as user 1. So that's worked. Interesting. Let's flip back to the database again, and now we can see that this second entry has a user ID associated with it as well. So that means we've got a list of requests that are associated with a product. In this case, only product 1 exists, and associated with the user ID. So that means that we can identify which users were the ones responsible for creating the requests, which is quite handy, as you can imagine. So now we've got a few requests, we should be able to list them out, shouldn't we, somehow? No, we want to go to the products page, products 1, which is our main list of products. Let's go and find out why that isn't rendering anything. So pages, I'm going to go to the product ID page. So do requests not have a title? Did we not set a title? We didn't. So if I come in here and say, 1, 2, 3, like put a title in there and save it, what happens? There it is. Bingo. Okay, so if I come up here and I say, let's say, put a title in called product feature requests, just to be really explicit about it. Excuse me, I've got the hiccups. And then we'll make a UL, put that at the bottom, and we'll switch that out to be a list item. And now we can see that there's 2 list items there. One of them has a title, one of them doesn't. We flip back to the database again and just give that one a title and save it. That one now has a title, great. So these are our feature requests. That's cool, isn't it? We installed Tailwind earlier, didn't we? What's that for? Well, interestingly, it doesn't look like we've got the default Tailwind styles installed. So what's going wrong there? Let's go and check that out. Because what we're going to do is we're going to make this look a bit nicer. Then we're going to set up the relation for the voting. And then we're going to set it up so that you can click on these and increment the vote for them. For only one static product, this might be fine, I guess. With multiple products, I would definitely check on the server side. Yeah, true. We can modify that when we come to it. For now, I'm just going to hard code it all with one product, probably. But yeah, that makes sense. Do I need to compile my Tailwind CSS? No, because Next should be doing it for me. Because this should be being imported. Is that the correct path? Oops, where'd it go? App styles index.js. App styles index.css. CSS, Tailwind base components. Usually the base Tailwind stuff should be, which tells me that perhaps this is wrong. Let's see. I do have another project with it in. Go and have a look. Have I even restarted the server since we did it? I'm not sure. Maybe I haven't restarted the server. That would probably do it. I mean, it looks like I didn't restart it for ages. So that could be it. Let's see. Ugly network error. Wait for it, wait for it. Build, build, build. 400 error. Taking its sweet time. We do, there we go. Tailwind defaults engaged. Which means that now we can't tell what's going on because all the defaults are long gone. Alright, so let's just quickly take a detour through Tailwind, shall we? because there's a lot of excitement and hype around it from some quarters at the moment. What do I want here? I don't often use Firefox, so I often get a bit lost in the dev tools. Whoops, go back. This one, thanks. Inspect element. Let's have a look in the head. What styles do we have? So possibly none. Oh yeah, just there's a normalize and the button blue, which is coming from, and I'm going to delete all these because I don't want them. Button.css, right? And what does button blue have in it? A bunch of stuff. Yeah. So these will be at least included in the Tailwind style sheet. Where is it? Where is it? L scripts. No, so it just sticks them in the body. I didn't think it did that. Maybe it needs to be bigger before it makes an external file. Who knows? We'll see as we go. So where were we? Product features. So let's just start buzzing around some Tailwind for a bit, shall we? Let's make this bigger. Make it extra bold. Is it leading or tracking? I always forget. Tracking, I think. Cozy it up a bit. No, that was tracking. Let's do them both then, because then it will be nice and tight. So product feature requests, and then for each one, for the title, we should probably mark these up better. But let's just oops. Make that big too. No, that won't work. Oh, it's because it's not wrapped, silly. So this is going to be a little cardy type thing. So let's give it a bit of padding just quickly, and a shadow and rounded corners. Cool. Get rid of some of this space and so we can see what's going on, shall we? And if we put some space on the list, what is it? X is across, so we want vertical space. Bingo. And so this is going to have a little voting thing. So let's go and look at the design quickly. Each of these cards is going to have a little box to the right with a number in it and and it's going to be a button, and then the title and the description. So let's just quickly knock that up so that we can see how it looks. So, okay, div with a button in it. Let's add the class name on there in the long way round. Add a border so we can see what's going on. And in fact, we probably want the button to set the size of this so the click target is big. But we won't set a size yet. We'll put the text in called vote. Now there's a button called vote, and we'll make this flex and flex row, which will make them go side by side. And we'll wrap this in a section as well so that it stacks. And then if we just do that, they'll stack, and then we can copy that and add the description if it's there. But it isn't there. How are we going to get the number of votes though? Ooh, how are we going to do that? Okay, 1, 2, 3, vote. Sweet. And we can add some Y space on here. Go for 4 for now, shall we? Oh wait, no. Does that not work? What have we done wrong? Space between? It should do space between them, should not. Why is that not doing it? Is it not a block? Don't know. Oh, I've not been looking at the chat. Missed the setup. Did you use the Tailwind Blitz recipe? Yes, I did. It was very, very straightforward. Have I got the Tailwind IntelliSense? Yeah, I have. Yeah, that's what this is, isn't it? BG red. Yeah. Oh, it's great, but it doesn't always work. Yes, so I've heard that they are working on making it better. I find that I often have to... It basically works in 2 cases. Well, you can press Control Space to get it up in most cases. Or you have to delete a space and do a space and it'll appear. Or I think you have to delete the speech marks and create them and it'll appear. I think those are the 3 conditions under which you can get it to appear. But they're apparently working on it, so because it'd be really nice if it would come up more often. But if failing anything, you can always Control Space. Yeah, in most cases. Sometimes it doesn't work, I find, when I'm using it in string literals for some reason. In dev mode, I guess it will never create .css files, right? It's easier to switch out styles. Yeah, that's a good point. You're probably right there, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Have to get the guess the first class and then it gives you suggestions, yeah. Yeah, you still have to guess often, but you can just command space it and then narrow it down, so you can just do red, I guess, and get all the red stuff, or border. Oh wait, there we go, I didn't do it then. Border, and get all the border stuff, etc. All good fun. Okay, so we're probably going to want these to be... oh, now Emmet's not working. There we go. Get rid of that. I probably want... it's annoying too. Get rid of that, now it's in there. And if we just change flex call, that'll solve that problem. And then space. Wait, does changing it to col change the orientation for space? I guess maybe it does. So why did that add space? Oh, it's put space between the things inside the button, just as we want. So why is we not getting any horizontal space here? Flex row for this one with the border and this one. There should be some space in between because I said space Y. Maybe that's wrong. No, that's right. No space between. What am I missing there? Why is that wrong? This one works. Oh, yeah, that one works. Space Y4, flex call. I change it to X because it's row. Okay, fine. I still get tripped up by flex direction apparently. Always probably will. Alright, so this is our vote button. Let's add some padding on it just for make it look a little bit less silly. Let's make it rounded. Should we add a small shadow instead of the border? Okay, and I guess we could do with some padding around here to separate all of those out. Now they look a little bit nicer, and we can set a background color. I don't know, should we go for a grey on there? Oh, try and get the autocomplete. The autocomplete to complete. Ooh, it's pretty ugly. Okay, cool. There goes a couple of simple cards for our feature request buttons. Let's make this rounded a bit. And shall we add hover effect to the button? Background yellow like dig. Something works. Probably not going to really show up. Yeah, it doesn't really show up. We'll do 200. Do you remember dig back in the day? It's like dig, right? So that vote's going to end up being an icon, probably like a thumbs up or something. So that's our basic layout, really. Let's close that. Okay, we probably need a max width on this, maybe. Where should we put that? In the top level of the page, or should we put it in the template? Restrict it at the layout level. Let's go and try it in the layout, shall we? So if we just impose ourselves on this here, what have we got? Max, screen, XL. Let's go for the biggest one. Let's go for large because we're going to be running it small, aren't we? Put that in there. What's wrong with that? Oh, I used the fragment. There we go. Cool, so now that has a max width. So now we can do, I guess, MX Auto to make the horizontal margins automatic. Bingo. Now our border background looks weird, but if we just do that, it looks like we meant to do it that way, doesn't it? Cool. Okay, so this is our one product page, and these are our things. So what do we need to do? We want to be able to add a request, so we need a button to take us to a form where we can actually add a new one of these. So that would be useful. We can do the form first, or we can do the voting first. So this will be a add request to product form. Where does that belong, do you think? So we're an hour in, we've got an hour left, we've got our basic UI. We now need to hook up the ability to dynamically create these and then vote on them dynamically as well. Those are the two things that we're going to do, I think. So should we do the form first so that we can then have a bunch of things to vote on? Let's do that, shall we? How are we going to do that though? So I have a request button at the top here. Let's do that quickly. We haven't got a button component at all, have we? So should we add a header here? And we'll add a button on the right, on the left, sorry, on the right. Excuse me, I got up early this morning. New request, oops. There we go. New request. And we'll make this, again, I'm just gonna flex everything. Flex row. And then make that actually say header, and then I'm going to ML auto that to move it over to the right, and with a bit of luck our button's now over here on the right. Sweet. Should I zoom in a bit so this is a bit bigger? Yeah. And now I can quickly tempted to wrap that so that we don't have the ML auto on the button, but let's use it. Let's just wrap it. Oh, let's do it like that. No, let's do it like this. Oh no, let's do it like this. Yeah, span.ml auto. There we go. That's what we want. Move that in there. Now we can style our button. In fact, Tailwind gave us a style, didn't it? So let's just quickly try that. In fact, Blitz recipe gave us a style. Is that going to work? Did we delete it? No, we didn't. Oh, it's button blue. In fact, let's just change that just for experimental purposes. Change that to BTN, and we'll come down here and oh look, we've got a button. Cool. So this is the other way you can use Tailwind if you want. We haven't seen that yet. So you can either jam it all in your classes like we're doing here, or you can apply them like this. And in the recent versions of Tailwind, you can also use the hover stuff in here now as well, which is cool. And the autocomplete works too. So if we hover BG red 500, for example, should work. Maybe not. I thought they'd fixed that. Maybe it can't be the first one. Oh, I thought they'd fixed that. Weird. Never mind. Okay, well, never mind. We're not going to use this anyway. So what I did want to do is just check the styles. Look, we might as well just copy these because that's what we need. And while we could reuse it here, I'm just going to reuse the React component instead. And then if we do it in the React component, we can set the color and stuff rather than having to define loads of classes with Tailwind styles, which can be a bit nasty. The dot button is a little anti-utilitarian. Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure why they've included it. I guess it's just useful to demonstrate that it's possible, but I tend to not do this ever. Very rarely do this. The only time I might do it is if I am doing some particular thing in CSS because I need to, and then I want to use a couple of Tailwind classes, I might use this, but very rarely. Yeah. But that's okay, so we can do that here. Look, and this is how quickly we can make a button. Let's move this over there so we can, oops, put that on the right, put that on the left, so we can see it. And now we can just really quickly say, okay, background blue 500. Button background changes to blue. You can see it here if you haven't spotted that. And then we can do, okay, padding horizontally can be px4 and py2, which means there's more padding on the sides than the top and bottom, which looks about right. We want it to be rounded, we want the text to be white, and we want the font to be bold. Boom, we've basically built the same button in a few seconds, which is pretty sweet. How are these laid out? So that'll remove the space, doesn't have padding on the bottom, so perhaps our header needs a little bit of a margin on the bottom, just so the button's not butting up against our container there. And we might want to make sure that our items in here are centered. Now, which one is it? Item center with flex row? Sorry, center items or justify center? Can anyone remember? Can't remember which it is. So the center, the center, item center or justify center. Go on, place your bets, place your bets. I always forget this. Certainly not self-center isn't what I want. Items center. Yeah, it's item center. Sweet, got it right. So I don't like that being extra bold. I'm going to make the tracking wide. I'm going to make it small. I'm going to make it the base size, and I'm going to make it uppercase. I'm going to remove the word product. Okay, so now if we put a border around that header, what are our alignments looking like? Okay, looks pretty good. Maybe we want it aligned at the bottom though. Not sure. We'll leave it like that for now. We're not really worrying too much about the design at the moment, as you can tell. Although perhaps we're worrying about it too much. Let's just go with regular bold. Yeah, maybe semi-bold. Yeah, it'll do. Maybe the colour's wrong. Text, grey. Just make it a bit less black. That's better. Alright. Forget about that. We need to make a form. Where does this button go? How does it do stuff? It's not actually a button. It's not a button. This is going to be a link to a page, isn't it? For that we need the link component, which hopefully is going to auto import from Blitz for us. And we want to go to products. Let's just do it at the request page where it is for now. And then we can move it later. Requests/new is where it's going to be, isn't it? And we'll wrap that with link as well. Oh, we need to end that tag. There we go. Yeah, okay, so new request. That's now a link instead of a button, but because the classes apply to the anchor just as much as the button, that still works, looks exactly the same. So should we add a mouse over effect now? Yeah, why not? Lighter or darker? Lighter or darker? BG blue 800. Because it's white text, we'll go dark. Yeah, that's too much though, isn't it? Let's go for 700. Let's not be too fussy. Sweet, nice. Right, click it. Where does it go? Request, new. Cool. New request, request new. So we don't have a layout at all for our whole site yet, so we need that at some point. But for now, requests new is here. So all it does is submit some data with the product ID and triggers an alert. So we'll get rid of that alert because that's going to be a little bit annoying. And then it redirects us to the requests page. But actually what we want it to do after success is send us back to the products with the product ID 1. And we probably don't need that request ID there. So let's just hard code this for now. Okay, so that should send us back to the product page once we submit the form successfully. We're not using that request anymore, but we'll keep it around just in case. I change this to a console.error so that the alerts don't pop up and become a little bit annoying. And at that point, we can now create a basic form. So this is our request form we've got here. Handles the submission, and on submit runs this function. So let's go and have a look at what that does. Okay, so it just says put your fields here, but for now just click submit. So that just shows us the list of the values that are there if they're available. So let's get rid of that, we don't need it. Let's get rid of that, we don't need it. And let's go and have a look at the login form, which we know has form fields on it already. What does it do? So it has a labeled text field, so we'll reuse that, shall we? Let's reuse that. And we're going to want let's have a look at what our product has. Sorry, what a request has. A title and a description. So we'll change this to say title. We'll also change this to say title. And we'll also change this to say title because we've got all the bits and pieces. We'll close that so we can see a bit better. Labeled text field, hopefully that'll auto import now. Yeah. Use field must be used inside of a form component. Okay, so we're not inside a form component at this point, so we're going to need to make one of those. Let's see, this is a form component, isn't it? Let's just use that, shall we? Okay, paste that in there and close it off. Okay, so there's loads of stuff that we don't want in there, like the login mutation. But we'll keep the pattern because this is basically what we need, isn't it? You know, this is the same stuff. It's going to be what we need once we get the stuff. So that means we're going to need to change the input types, which we're going to get from Prisma. Where does login get them from? Look. Oh, it's got validations. Okay, so we're going to need to make some validations as well at some point, but we won't worry about that too much for now. So let's just comment that out for a second. Sorry, just checking something so I don't do anything foolish. Right, anyway, let's crack on. Don't know where that form error comes from. That comes from the form as well, so we need that. Let's import these up here. Let's move that under React because it's better that way. Okay, look, there's a form. Okay, so how do the values get there? Let's see. On submit, async values are submitted. We need to call something in here, don't we, with those values? All right, these are wrong. So it's going to be title. That's an empty string in this new request dashboard. The values are going to come in, and we're going to call some kind of mutation to create the request, aren't we? Which was actually already there. We deleted it, didn't we? Or is it in the new thing? Yeah, this, basically. So the values are going to come in here. We're going to call on submit here, aren't we? Yeah, like this. We don't get the event, so we can't prevent default. We don't get an event, we get values, so we'll pass them up. We don't need that or that. That's going to catch and show the errors on the form, hopefully. We'll try that maybe later. Do celebration notification. What was that? Did I? Was that the form thing? Okay, so when we run that, the form component is going to run that thing. We need to get rid of this because we don't want that anymore. Don't want that. That button needs to be inside the form, of course. We don't want a button that says login, do we? Does this say login? No, it says login because that's what it says there. So actually the button should say add request, right? And that means we don't need this guy, I reckon. Which is weird actually, but that is going to submit the form. Oh look, it submitted a blank one because we've got no validations. That's cool. So what we can do there is get Prisma to do this for us, right? I don't know, let's try it. If we make the title not optional and run blitz db migrate, request title not optional. Oh no, found a migration that cannot be executed. There are one existing null values. I wonder if we were able to fix those. Not null. I wonder if we're able to fix these in the mutations automatically somehow. To look into that. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Okay, so they should all have a title now. That's not going to do anything. Oh, it let us create a new one without the title. Oh, that's because we didn't finish doing the migration bit. We're going to do that now. This migration should work now. Remove, request title mandatory. I don't know what, I need a naming convention for these. I don't really know how to do it. May the column title and table request required, but there are one existing null values. No, there aren't. We just deleted it. Did we not? Refresh. Oh, and then I made another one, didn't I? Like a silly Billy. There we go. Now I'll do it. Will it auto-complete my last one? No. Required. There we go. I use word like mandatory in there, do you? That's silly. Yep. Okay, we should have regenerated. TypeScript server is now reloading. That's good. Get rid of that. And now, if I go over here and click new request, it should error. Yeah, something's not happening. Look. What is it? We're not getting an error report, but we're probably console logging it out now, aren't we? Yes, we are. So what's happening here is, where was that code? In our requests new top level, we come in. Data, why is that wrong? Create request mutation, what's wrong with that? Create request. Is that wrong now? Title is missing. Ah, that's exactly what we just changed, wasn't it? We just made it so that you have to submit a title, and that's why there's an error. So if I now say that's hard-coded title, that now validates, and I can come over here and add request. Might need to refresh because it errored. I'll type in there, it won't do anything, but it should post and we get a hard-coded title one. Cool. So now what we want is this values should contain a title, shouldn't it, from the form, right? Except the type is wrong in here. Here, so that's just going to be, it's going to be values. What is values? It's just an array of any, really, isn't it? It's going to be strings though. They're all form fields, so it's probably an array of strings more or less. Oh, does it tell us? Oh, sorry, it's a function. It returns an array of strings, maybe. What's the error there? Expected 0 arguments, but got none. What? Oh, because that is an argument. What? Oh, expected 0 arguments. String array, void. Sorry, that was completely wrong. Okay, cool. So now we should get the values in here. They're going to be a string array. That should just let us work, right? Title does not exist on type string array. Of course it doesn't. So we actually need to type these. Values is going to be our request input. Okay, we need to do some validation here. Let's leave that for now. We'll go and look at validation in a minute. So now, typed this in, didn't I? Add request. Hey, so now we can add requests. Cool. But they've all got 1, 2, 3 votes, which is no good at all. So next thing I want to do really, really quickly. This is all extremely rough. This is, I guess, what you might call sketching. And I guess this is one of the strong points of using Tailwind and using Blitz, using Next, all of these things. It just allows you to kind of almost sketch with code and just hook things up as you go. And it's perhaps not how you want to build everything, but it's really good for side projects and fun stuff. So hook up some requests for a product. It's a bit generic, but I'm not going to mess about doing that. I'll push this in case anyone's following along on Git. Okay, so button, upvote. How does this work? There's no model for this in the database yet. What we need to do is record many votes from many users that are associated with a product, and also we want many products to know that many users have voted for them. So that's a two-way many-to-many relationship, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And the way to model that with Prisma is with a, well, it's a join table, a pivot table, a dual ID table, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to try it by calling it votes on requests. I'm going to pluralize it. Should I pluralize it? I don't know. And then I'm going to go over to the Prisma docs, I think, and let's do it in Safari and look at the what's it called? When you have two IDs that make up a unique ID as a pair, like at ID index, dual field indexes, what do you call it? Can't remember. Let's see if we can find it in the relations stuff. Or is it in the model? Probably in the model stuff. Where's the schema? Data sources, data model. There. Okay. Let's see if we can find an example somewhere. Oops, didn't mean to bookmark that. I am looking for pivot effectively. I'm going to create a pivot table, but I want, there it is, this, where we can make it so that, this is basically how I'm going to make it so that a user can only vote for a post on one occasion, by basically making the unique ID for the table a combination of the user ID and the request ID in the pivot table. I'm fairly sure that if we want to store, so Prisma will hook up a, kind of do a pivot table by just doing a many-to-many thing in the schema. But if we want to do, if we want to store a timestamp on the at the moment that they voted, so that we can show like a, so that we can, you know, do the algorithm that wants to rank for, you know, if you got 10 votes in the last 30 seconds and the other post got 10 votes in the last hour, the one that got 10 votes in the last 30 seconds probably should be ranked above it. So I want to store the dates that the votes were made. And at least as far as I can tell with Prisma, we have to hook that up manually. Kind of like this. Where is it? Do they, I think they use the word pivot actually now. No, they don't. Where is it? Here, like this, I think. No. Where is it? Models. No, that's not on. Relations, it must be on the relations stuff then. Scanning. Many-to-many, here we go. Categories on posts like this. So here's the basic example. A post has an ID, a category has an ID, and then if we have a categories on posts table with both of the IDs in it, and a constraint on both of those IDs being unique, we can be sure that a user can only vote on here once. User ID to request, I guess. Let's have a fiddle, see what happens. So looking at this, we want on our request to have votes on requests, which will be a votes on requests array, I think. This is invalid. Let's give it an ID and a created at stuff as defaults. And sweet, there we go. It's added some fields for us. So this has hooked up the request, which will add the request ID to the database. And if we then go to the user, we've got this requests thing, which will list their requests, but then we also kind of want this votes on requests thing as well, and use the votes on requests there as an array. That'll mean that on the user we'll have a votes on requests, which will be able to get the user's requests that they voted on. And on the request we'll have a votes on request, which means that we'll be able to get the users that have voted on this request, in theory. Just going to make those lowercase. And this means that this votes on request table will have the timestamp that the vote was created at, the request it was on, and the user that it was for. Let's put those in the same order. In theory. So let's see if that's a valid schema. Oh, and instead of the ID, I want to do this, don't I? So actually we're going to remove this ID and replace it with this, which I'm going to put at the bottom underneath the relations, like in the example, and change this to request ID is unique and user ID. Oops. Okay. Is that valid? Why is that not valid? The ID definition refers to the optional fields. Request ID, they must refer to only required fields. Okay, they can't be optional. That's fair enough. The whole point of this table is these relationships, so there's nothing we can do without them. Cool, so now those are not optional. That should set up a relationship. We don't need that, but we'll leave it there just as an example. Actually, no, we'll delete that. We won't just leave commented out stuff lying around. That's terrible. Excuse me. Okay, so we've got 35 minutes left. Let's see if we can hook up voting on posts quickly. So Blitz DB migrate. Oops, typed it wrong. I need auto correct on that as well. That'd be nice. What did we do then? We added votes. Add votes. Oops. Votes. Ooh. Votes on requests. Okay, so that runs. Looks like that generated okay. Cool. No problemo. That's updated our database. Let's go and check what that got us. Okay, so now we've got this votes on request table with a bunch of the fields that we expect, the request ID, the user ID, created at and updated at. So that looks good to me. No worries there. Okay, so how are we going to create a vote on a request then? We're going to need a mutation to do that, aren't we? So let's pop in here to our request objects, go to the mutations. So we've got this update request. I'm going to close this editor. This is probably the closest example to what we want to do, right? So I make a new mutation in here called vote on request.ts. Okay, and I'm going to open that other one over here as a reference. Close the sidebar so we can have a bit more space. And I might copy the first couple of lines, the imports and the types. Oops. In fact, we might as well just copy the whole thing. This is basically exactly what we're going to do. We're basically going to do exactly this, aren't we? Except we want to not do request update args. We want votes on requests create args. Let's try that. Votes on requests, yeah, create args. Yeah, like that. That's what we want. I'm going to create a vote. We're going to pass in some data. Oh, we need to rename this. So what should we rename it? Votes on requests. Wait, what was it called? Request input. Oh, that was plural, so we probably better keep that consistent. So these names are no fun. Putting an E in there is probably going to be necessary. That's typed wrong. Requests input. Requests input. Alright. So now, why is that wrong? You don't need a where on a create, do you? We copied the update one, that's what we did wrong there. So we're going to pass in the data. We don't need a where because it's a create. That's going to be a vote on request. Don't need where, we just need the data of the vote. We're going to need the user information again. So where did we have that? That was on the create request one, wasn't it? Yeah, look. So we'll just copy that. We need the user ID. So we don't need the where there either. But we want to do exactly the same here with the user. So we'll spread the data over there and we'll say user connect ID is the user ID. So we're going to change that also to be db.votes on requests .create. Okay. So we need to connect the user and we also need to connect the request so we know what request is. So how do we do that? We're going to need to pass that in, aren't we, from the client as part of the data. Oh, so it might already be in the data. So actually we don't necessarily need that. We can do it from our call to the vote function. So that looks like it should be correct, more or less. So I'll add a vote. It will associate the user privately on the server. We might want to pass in the product ID from the vote button. So let's go and have a look at that product ID page. Here we are listing out the feature requests, and this is the button that we want to make call that mutation. So how do we call mutations? Let's see. Okay, so we just import it like this. We can, in fact, let's see if it'll auto import it for us. So under this delete project mutation, we'll just add a vote on request mutation, and we'll use mutation vote on request like that, and that'll import the vote on request function that we just wrote. That's pretty cool. And then oops, didn't mean to delete that, did I? And then that vote on requests mutation, we need to call, I mean, pretty much we need to call it on this button when we click it, right? So let's just, for now, add a click handler on there. We'll just do it in here for now. And we'll await that. We'll make this async. And let's see what this expects. Data. And we want to associate it with a request. And the request has an ID. And we've got a request.id right here, haven't we? Like that. Epic. Whilst I'm thinking about that. Oh, interesting. So actually it is asking us to pass in the user's ID. That's interesting. I wonder if we can make that optional in our type here. Ooh, interesting. I wonder what the best practice is there. Because I want to do this on the server side. I don't want to have to pass it in here. But if I don't pass it in here, it makes the validation check on this mutation fail. Because it's expecting it to match this votes on requests create input, which includes all of these arguments, including this votes on requests create input. But what we don't want is the user thing to be mandatory, actually. interesting. So what we can do to work around that for now is we can just get the user, in fact I'll call it current user equals use current user, which is just a Blitz hook that they give us. And if I just check, we should be able to current user dot, does it come out like that? Oops. Okay, what does this return? Let's have a look quickly. Oh, did it not import? Oh, it didn't import. Use current user. Can you import, please? There we go. Goodness me. Right. So current user. There we go. And now current user dot ID can be used down here. So we'll just pass this in to keep it happy. But it's worth noting the stuff we said earlier still applies, and we're actually going to overwrite it. We're going to spread it over, so that'll include the user, but then we're going to overwrite that user field with the one from this user session on the server. So actually this is not necessary. I'll need to look into a nicer way to do this. But for now, current user.id. And that might be undefined, so we need to do that. Cool. So in theory, when we click the button, it's going to await a call to vote on request mutation, which is going to fire off a request with our current user's ID and the ID of the current request we're clicked on. And we should get a record over in the database in this table detailing which one we clicked and who we are. So let's try it quickly and see what happens. You ready? Click. Ah, we got an error. Checks the chat to see if someone who's watching has already told me what the error is. No, no one has. What's wrong in there then? Let's read the error message. Cannot read property creative undefined. In here. In here. Here maybe. That looks defined to me. Where is it reporting? Product ID. We're in an async function. Calling, we've got all the properties we need. Child, let's click that. Votes on request. Can't read creative undefined, which sounds like it's this. I think I just need to restart Blitz because I modified the schema. I think that's probably what it is. I was about to skip this one because the little squeaks are annoying, but there's 2 seconds to go. There's the end. Okay. So hopefully that's valid now. Oh wait, it was a runtime issue, not a TypeScript issue. Okay, click it again, see what happens. Hey, look at that. Vote on request was called, starting with input data request, connect to ID, request ID 1 and user ID 1. So in our database now, if we go and look in the votes on request table, hey look, we've got the created at and updated at date. We probably don't need updated at because these are never going to change. Well, they might update if we maybe mark them as deleted instead of removing them. Don't know why we would do that. We probably wouldn't do that. But anyway, request ID 1, user ID 1 are in there, votes on request. So that means, in theory, if we go into our get product query again, and we say, oh, actually, we also want to include, ooh, I wonder if that's going to work. So we also want to include the relations on the product. Oh, the product doesn't have that. So actually, look, can we go in deeper here? I think we can. Isn't that interesting? So we can say, well, actually, I want the votes on each of the requests as well. Can I count them? I haven't got a count here, but maybe there's a way to count them. We'll just include them then. We'll not send an object, we'll just say, yeah, give me all of those as well. So when I say get product, especially on this page, I always want the requests because that's what I'm rendering, and I always want the number of votes on the request. So we can just make it so that Prisma does that for us. Which means that now this request object here, yeah, look, is a request. Oops, it's just going to disappear. Is a request and also includes the votes on the request. So now I can come down to this 1, 2, 3 thing here, and we've got our request object. Oops, if I type it right, we have. And hit dot, and yeah, we've got votes on request, and I can just length it because it's an array, and that will give us the number of votes. No votes. Oh, it crashed. Ah, unique constraint failed on the field's request ID, user ID. So that is a conflict because of my constraint. It's basically telling me that I've already voted on that and I can't vote on it again. So we're going to need a way to identify whether the current user is one of the votes, aren't we? So I don't know if this is a good way to do this, but let's see. What if we wanted to know if the user has voted? We've got the current user. So what if we go request.votes on request.find where the vote on request dot user ID equals our current user's ID. That might be undefined. Has votes, has voted. And if anyone in the US is watching, I guess don't forget to vote in November. But let's not get into politics. Where are we? Where's our button? Where's our button? Classes. Okay, so I'm going to just say if has voted, voted, or not voted, not votes. Let's see if that works. Bum, 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 bum. Has votes not defined because I've typed it wrong again. Okay, just about 25 minutes to go, so we're getting there slowly. Where are we at? Click. So I've voted on that one, I've not voted on these ones. That seems to be the case, so I click that one. Ah. Why did that one fail? That one's not got a vote on it, has it? Let's see, let's see. Oh, it has. So I can vote on that one. Ah, I can vote on that one, but look what's not happening. It doesn't update after I click. How are we going to get it to do that? Well, the queries also return a second object in here with a bunch of interesting flags and functions, one of which is this refetch function. And what we're going to do is, the easiest way, we're going to await the vote on request mutation to run, which does our inserts the vote into the database, and then we're going to call refetch. And refetch is going to basically hit the API again, the API we didn't make, and update our vote. So as you can see, I came back, that updated. I'm going to click this one, and in this time, we're going to see the input come in, the vote will come in, it'll get saved, and then we'll immediately see the get product query run again. Ready? And this will update to a 1. Boom. Done. Really quick. And now if I click it, we get the error again, so we can do things like catch errors potentially. So we'll try that, and if it works we'll do that, but otherwise we'll catch the error and we'll just log it out for now. Alright, so now what happens if I do a second vote? Oh no, it fails, but the app doesn't crash because we're catching it. And we could show all sorts of things there if we want. And we could handle it in other ways, and we could show a nicer error message to the user, but for now we're just going to make it so that if you click again it doesn't do anything. It's pointless. Although if we look in the network tab we will see that it's probably still making the API request, which probably we don't want. Yeah, every time I click it, makes the request. But that's okay. Cool, so we can basically vote on stuff now. And only once. So I can vote on all of these, and when I voted, it knows I voted, so now we can use that has voted flag, this one, to change the look of our button a bit when we've voted on it, can't we? So I'm going to install yarn add save class names, which is going to let me do easy. Oh, okay, do it like that then. Pretty sure yarn saves automatically, doesn't it? Let's have a look. Okay, we should commit all this stuff. Add basic feature voting on products. Okay. I'll push that up just in case anyone is following along. Alright, so let's see. I'm going to make a new feature. My fantastic new feature idea. Add request. There it is at the bottom. Sweet. So I've not voted on that one. I'm going to click vote. I've now voted on that one, and that's it. We can do that now. So in theory, you can come to this page. I mean, I haven't deployed it, but when we deploy it, you can come to this page, sign up for an account, add your own requests, probably a load of spam, and then come and upvote the ones that you haven't yet voted on. What we don't yet do is allow you to unvote, but perhaps we'll save that for another time. What might be nice is if we made it so that we had a page layout that we could wrap this in, wouldn't it? And maybe we can add the description as well quickly, and we'll go from there. So, product. Let's have a look at product number 2. It's not going to work, is it? Because it's only works with product 1, but we'll worry about that another time. So stick with product 1. That's got a list of features. And look, if we go back and go forward again, it's really fast. All cached nicely. We go back to the products, to product 1, instant. Products, product 1, nice. It's quite fast. It's good stuff. Good stuff. So, committed all of that. Let's go to our layout. We've added a max screen page. We could come in here and perhaps we will add a header. Let's add a border to it just so we can see what's going on. So this is product Panda. I'm going to type it again because I forgot to wrap it in the tags, and it's probably just quicker to type it again in so many cases. Alrighty then, let's see. Font, extra bold, text, grey, 600. And size, text, XL. Welcome to Product Panda. I'm going to add a little bit of vertical padding to get it off the top. Sweet. And then I'm going to lose the border around that. And I'm going to make that flex row. And down here, we're going to add some buttons. In fact, let's call it nav. Which will be features list for now. You import that, please? Yes. And we'll just link to products 1 for now. Wrap that in the link. This needs to be an A tag. Oh, space A tab. Get rid of the href. Oh, I'm just going to write it again, like a Teletubby. Teletubbies. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Why did I do that? Goodness me, what is going on? Alex linked me a picture of a panda. It's beautiful. I've only just seen it. See if I can get it on screen without giving away. Open original. Yep. Gotta open the wrong browser though. Oh god, careful. There it is. Look at that little beauty. No. You don't deserve the panda. Oh, I just did that. I didn't know you sent me the panda. To be honest, the only reason I checked Discord was because I thought I hadn't heard anything from anyone in a while. I was worried my stream was died or something. But it looks like we're still good because you're now enraged. Oh, I don't deserve the panda for the Teletubby theme. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I often get TV themes, old TV theme tunes stuck in my head. It's the most annoying thing. The last few weeks, like it frequently comes up. Thomas the Tank Engine comes up. The other day it was what was it? Round the Twist, going round the twist. Have you ever felt like this? Yeah. Strange things happen. I am going round the twist. Yeah. So. The cool thing is you can go and watch all these TV theme tunes on YouTube now, and hopefully they get them out of your head. Thomas the Tank Engine one, the original one with Ringo Starr as the fat controller, takes me back, really does. Boop, 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 boop. Anyway, we have got 10 minutes left. What shall we do? I'm not going to try and deploy this week because might run into some issues. In fact, though, I am going to quickly go, if we're logged into GitHub, which I think we are, I'm going to scoot over to this repo. Excuse me. Yeah, no, tests are failing miserably. Oh no, I wonder why. Let's have a quick look. Tests failed completely. Product is not assigned to parameter type, blah 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 blah. What file is that in? Product ID edit. Okay, that's because we haven't fixed up the edit form abilities. So we'll worry about that next week, I think. We'll leave that for now. So we'll start next week by getting this working app probably deployed into Vercel and DigitalOcean. Make sure our tests are working. There goes Pretzel again. Yeah, so we've got the basics. Let's just quickly add a new request. Add request. Did that appear? Yes, it did. I've not voted yet. Let's vote for that one. All right, now we've installed. Did we install class names? We just install class names. Have a look. Yes, there it is. Let's just quickly do some conditional rendering on that then. I am going to import class names from class names. And then down here with our has voted flag, which checks that our user has voted, I'm going to change the button. Where's the hover? Hover. And I'm going to flip this out, make this a string literal, get rid of the quotes. That's probably a quicker way to do that, isn't it? Wrap that as well. Wrap that as well. And then I need to go class names. Oops. Oh, in fact, I didn't need to do the string literal. I'm a fool. Anyway, doesn't matter. We will also have BG red 200. No, let's make it BG blue 200. When has voted is true. Boom, so I voted on them all, they're all blue. If I create a new one, Oops, I pressed back. No, I didn't. There we go. And click it, it goes blue. Sweet. Okay, so 10:22, we've got 8 minutes. What should we do? Let's add, maybe we could add description in quickly. Should we add description in quickly? Which one? Oops, which one's new request? Is it that one? Yeah, request form. And we will add another text field in. We'll just use a text field for now rather than flipping out to a text area, but we could easily switch to a text area later on. Could have changed those at the same time instead of doing it separately. Okay, so we've added in the description. That will be typed in by the user. It will flip through this onSubmit function, get called onto our onSubmit up here, fall into here, be part of this, so then we can actually probably just do values like that, can't we? We want to spread all the values that come out of the form into the data object that we're sending to the server, and then modify the product connection one like so. So in theory, that should be all we need to add the description field. So new one with description. This is a nice short description. Okay, add request. Did it appear? Oh no, it already works. Cool. Didn't remember hooking that up, but fine. Like that, done, sweet. So there's our little feature request for our product. Cool. Kind of works. It's pretty neat. We've got a link here that takes us to this page. We haven't got a link that takes us to our index page. We haven't got our user information up in the header, so maybe we can just quickly add that in really quick. So that's flex row. Let's make that go on the right. No. Is that a block level thing? Let's see. Why is it not updating? What? No money? What have I forgotten? Okay, let's have a look. And now we're wrapping up. It's good that we run into a few little bits and issues. Oh wait, that is not a block. Fine. Oh wait, I didn't want it to be a block. I want it to have, wait, it's not got any classes. Is Blitz crashed? What's happened here? Restart that just to see if it could be something there. Unfortunately, the build does crash a fair bit, I think. Not sure why. Okay, let's see if this works. Dramatic music to wind us out for the last few minutes. So this looks like it's working, loads in the feature requests. We'll tidy up this stuff next week. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it works now. So features list is over there. That's our little navigation link. Let's center it up, shall we? Where are we? Item center. Use the border. Oops, not the whole line. Use the border. Yeah. All right, sweet. We can lose the stuff in the request list as well. Where was that? Product ID in the request list here. We've got the word voted that we don't really want visible. Visible voted, that one, that can go. That makes those a bit shorter and look a bit prettier. I guess we'll leave it there for now. Let me commit this. What was that last bit we did? We added the navigation link to get to the page. I'm just going to clean up quickly these bits down here. We don't need that down there. We don't need that div. we just want to render the product parts of the page. What's that product one? That's our title up here. So actually we'll just lose that for now. And actually that should be the H1 on this page. So we'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. Looks a bit neater. That returns there. That's doing that stuff. Maybe put the class name at the top, but we'll worry about that another time. Okay, cool. And let's make the header, the logo at the top of the layout, go back to the home page quickly. So link href, check. Oops. Link. Alright, so now we can navigate back to our home page. We've just got the fact that we're logged in. We can go to the features list. Cool. And actually maybe we want the user stuff over here on the right. We didn't put that in the end, did we? Where is that? User info is still in there. So let's extract that into its own little component, shall we? This is the last little thing we're going to do. So let's make a user info.tsx in here, paste that in there, export user info. Okay, we're going to need to import all of these things. Can I? Yeah. Little tip, you can also control space at the end of a thing to do the auto imports. Export user info, what's wrong with that? Const user info is function, control space, control space, control space. Okay, that one didn't work for some reason, don't know what. Log out, log out. Is that everything? What? Export user info. What am I missing? What does it say? Declaration or statement expected. What's wrong with that? Can anyone see? Oops. Is that one? Yeah. Wait a minute. What's going on? What's wrong with that? That's the if, the else, the return, done. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? It's weird. Does it have to have a default export? Is that it? Oh, it is that. Okay, fine. If you want a default export, you can have one. For now, at least. Okay, so can you import that, please? Yeah. Oops, failed. Yep. Thanks. And then we can delete these two. Don't need that. Don't need that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that comment. Don't need that either. Get rid of that space there. Move that to the top because it's React. Much better. And then we can go into the layout and over here. User info. Oops, if I can type info, do that. We're going to have to wrap that in suspense because it's going to try and load our user info. We'll end the suspense. We'll talk about the suspense next time. I don't really know much about it. Fallback equals loading. Is that going to work? Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Alright, anyway, we're over time now, so we might as well wrap it up there. Let's see, is that going to work? Yeah. Cool, so now our user info is in the header as well. I'm probably going to swap those over. I might get rid of the ML auto on there. Oh no, that'll work fine. Yeah, cool, perfect. And we can do some space X. Should get some space between them, right? Right? Maybe it doesn't work when there's a suspense thing there. Don't know. We'll worry about that later. But there we go. Let me just commit this so that the repo is up to date. Let's check. What did we do? What did we do? We moved the user layout stuff, tidied up that stuff, added description. So that was all adding description. Oops, I usually do add, not adding. I'm not going to worry about it though. Actually, yes, I am. No, is that not how you do amend? Git amend. How do you do it? I always forget this. Git, oh, it is. Like that. Yeah. There we go. Do. And the rest of this is all put user info in header of the layout. But you get what I mean. Push origin main. Cool. All right, folks. Well, thanks for watching along. Thanks for the chats. Thanks for anything else. By all means, drop us comments. Let us know what you thought. Check out norfolkdevelopers.com. Come and join us in the Discord community if you want to chat more about these things, or sing some TV theme tunes. Write the theme tune, sing the theme tune, whatever you like. But yeah, we'll be back for one more session next time, where no doubt we'll get this deployed, perhaps tidy up the styling and functionality, maybe add a few more bells and whistles, and then you can all go and have a play with it, or completely ignore it. It's up to you. I will leave you with some of this wonderful cute cat background music. Felt cute, might delete later, which I guess is a social media reference. And I will head out and get on with my day job, and I'll catch up with you lovely people next week at 8:30 AM British Summer Time. I'll leave you with our wonderful list of Patreon subscribers, and if you get any value out of the events that Norfolk Developers is doing, please do consider contributing. Helps keep the light on. Helps keep the lights on. But otherwise, please do come participate in the community. There's regular events almost every week, if not a couple of times a month. And that's it. I'll see you next time. Ciao.